wait, it's me.
Yeah. I was like, wait.
You are listening to A Scary State, and this week we're covering Florida. So, Nora,
Yes, Lauren?
let's get scary.
Hey, guys. Welcome
Hello.
back to another episode.
Another episode.
We are recording for the very first time in my new house.
It's so exciting.
I know. It's like doesn't feel real. I just gave Lauren a tour, so.
It's super cute. It's really cute.
It's so exciting. So what story were you gonna tell?
Okay. So I hung out with my grandma on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which one?
My mom's mom.
Okay.
So,
She's the one whose friend was married to that killer. Listen to our New Jersey episode.
Yes. So my mom, my grandma, and I, we all get what we call premonitions. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we don't see something, but it will be we have a really quick thought. And if that thought is just like a really quick fleeting thought, it's usually what happens. So my mom, myself, my grandma, we've all had like a ton of experiences like this, but my grandma having by far the most. So just last week she had one where she was driving and she came up to an intersection, like a four-way intersection with stoplights. Mm-hmm. So she stopped at the red light. She's going to be turning left through the intersection. And she said she just got this overwhelming feeling to not go right away. And so she was like, okay, like she said it was just like it hit her, this very strong feeling to not go right away.
And when was this?
Like last week or something.
Oh,
yeah, so very recent. So she's sitting at the light turns green, and she just like kind of waits until this feeling passes, and maybe a second or two later, at the time when like everyone would have stopped at the red light, a car goes flying through the intersection at like 70 miles per hour. So if my grandma hadn't stopped, she would have been hit.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that chilling?
That is so scary.
Yeah, it's so scary. So she told us that when we hung out on Sunday, and I was like, oh my God, Grandma.
Thank goodness she's okay.
Yeah. But it's just so creepy. And like that got us talking about it. And my mom and I, because I asked her, I was like, what is that feeling that you get when it, like something's telling you not to do something? Like when you get these premonitions, what's your feeling? And she's like, it's just like this very strong, quick thought that I have. And I was like, that's exactly how it is for my mom and I.
Wow.
Like my mom had a story once. She used to sell pharmaceuticals like to doctors and stuff. Mm-hmm. And she went into one doctor's office and she had a quick thought that the guy's shirt was going to leak, like his pen was going to break. Mm-hmm. Just quick thought, in and out. And so he leaves the room and he comes back in and his ink is dripping down his shirt. Wow. Because his pen broke in his pocket. Yeah, so it's just
that is insane.
It's just weird small things that happen like that. Like once when I was working, I was just thinking of this girl who I hadn't seen around the office recently. So just click in and out. And then I go into the bathroom and she's right there. So it's just like weird things like that. So,
you know, I've had very similar things to that happen to me where like I'll think about someone and then all of a sudden they'll reach out to me, or like one time I kept seeing a certain name everywhere. I talked about it like a while ago. Yeah. Like things like that happen to me, and I don't know if it's because I'm just like paying attention too much. I don't know, but it's just so interesting.
Yeah. Things like that are just so creepy. But I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to tell Nora now. I'm going to tell her when I see her at the podcast.
I'm so glad your grandma's okay.
Me too. Me too. And then real quick, after I had my bridal shower this weekend, which was just absolutely incredible. Shout out Mackenzie and Mom. So when I got home, my dog had destroyed my bedroom door. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm not even going to get into it. It makes me so mad. But I was thinking, like, how can a dog do this much damage? And then, of course, because of who I am, I was like, oh my God, there's someone in my house. Like, we have someone living in my house. That's not me. So Joe was away this past weekend. And I'm just like freaking out the whole time because I keep thinking I'm like hearing things. I probably wasn't. And then I get into bed. It's like 2 a.m. and I was about to fall asleep. And then I was like, no, there's someone in my house. So what does my crazy ass do? I wake up. I go to the little crawl space that we have upstairs. And I open the door. And I walked through this whole crawl space just to make sure there was no one in my house at 2 in the morning.
You're crazy.
And then I got really scared. And then I told my friend at work. He's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I said, don't say that.
You were walking through the crawl space in the middle of the night? That's scary.
I know.
What if you fall through?
Well, it's like a hard surface.
Oh, okay.
But so I was telling this guy at work the next day, and I was like, yeah, I had to do this because I was scared someone was in my house. He's like, well, there could be. And I was like, don't say that. No. He's like, no, they could just like be in the walls or something.
You need to cut
your dog out.
Cut ties with that person.
And I was like, please don't tell me that there's a person living in my walls. And he's like, well, it could be just like an animal. I said, I don't want anything living in my walls.
Oh my goodness.
So then that made me scared. So.
But there was no one there, right?
Well, not that I could see.
Huh.
I know. It's creepy. Now I'm just scaring myself more. All right, so Nora, tell us about Florida.
So Florida, nicknamed the Sunshine State, joined the Union on March 3rd, 1845, and became the 27th state in the U.S. Florida got its name from Ponce de Leon, who named the state in honor of the Easter celebration in Spain known as Pascua Florida, which means Feast of Flowers. Aww. Some interesting laws. If you have an elephant, you must pay the same parking fee you would pay for a car if you tied that elephant to a parking meter.
Well, that doesn't seem to make much sense.
I feel like people in Florida would be the most likely to have an elephant.
I was just going to say who would have an elephant, but you're actually really right about that.
If you steal a horse, you may be punished by hanging.
Oh my God.
Showering naked is prohibited.
Huh.
That's awkward.
Yeah, that's awkward.
The halfway point of Interstate 4 is known as the dead zone.
That's always comforting.
It got its name from the high number of accidents that occur at the spot. I wonder if it has a sharp turn or something.
I don't know.
Between 1963 and 1990, there have been an estimated 1,048 to 1,740 accidents. Many of these accidents ended up being fatal.
Jeez.
Apparently, Lucifer owns a tree in Port St. Lucie. That's not easy to say.
Which actually is a major point in my story, which is super creepy.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's said that this tree is impossible to chop down.
Ew.
I don't like that.
I don't either.
According to research from Radford University and Florida Gulf Coast University, Florida is in the top 3 states with the largest number of serial killer victims at 845.
Oh my God.
Since 1900.
Jeez. Ted Bundy. Oh.
That was the next one. Jinx. He was executed by electric chair in Florida on January 24th, 1989.
I was just going to say, yeah, he had a lot of victims in Florida.
Wow.
I think it was the sorority house in Florida.
So Florida has 13 identified serial killers and 3 unidentified serial killers. And I bet you a good amount of people have heard of a lot of the Florida serial killers.
Oh, probably.
Because I feel like they were the most vicious.
Yeah, just the most prolific ones.
Exactly. So guys, Lauren and I have some good cases this week. So Lauren, take it away.
All right, so the case I chose this week, I think I've told you about it before. It's just really stuck with me the first time I heard it for some reason. So the first time I heard it, I was listening to Morbid. Shout out Morbid. And I don't know why, but I remember exactly where I was when I was listening to it. I remember all of the details of it. I just remember his name. I can pull his name out of my head. I don't know what it is about this case. So when we were doing Florida, I was like, well, I know exactly what I'm going to cover. So at only 17 years old, Tyler Hadley of Port St. Lucie, Florida, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But what in the world would provoke this kind of sentence for a minor? Tyler J. Hadley was born on December 16, 1993, in Port St. Lucie, Florida, to his parents Blake and Mary Jo Hadley. Tyler's parents had moved to Port St. Lucie back in 1987 from Fort Lauderdale because it seemed like a quiet town and a great place to raise 2 young boys. It was also closer to Blake's parents. Blake Hadley worked at a nuclear power plant as a watch engineer, and Mary Jo was an elementary school teacher. Tyler also had an older brother named Ryan. The family appeared to be your typical loving family. Cindy Hadley, Tyler's aunt, remembers that Tyler was a total mama's boy. He was constantly hugging his mom. The family was active and enjoyed spending time together as a family. Tyler was also described as a cute and affectionate kid. He was very well behaved. He joined the Boy Scouts and was just your typical young boy.
So it sounded like he had a normal childhood and normal parents.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Normal life, seemingly. He liked to hang out with his friends, play games, play sports, pass the football around with his dad.
Yeah.
But all of that changed when Tyler reached adolescence. His family tried to chalk it up to him being a teenager, but his behavior continued to get worse. He began experimenting with drugs, drinking, skipping school, and rebelling against authority. In 2010, he pled guilty to burglary, and later that year, he set a couch or mattress on fire in a park nearby. That also caused him to lose a lot of friends. His friends' parents didn't want them hanging out with Tyler, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Arson.
Mm-hmm.
What could be coming?
Mm-hmm. Then the following year, in April of 2011, Tyler attacked one of his friends and was charged with aggravated battery. After this charge, partnered with the fact that he had already had a juvenile record, Tyler was sentenced to a week at St. Lucie County Jail. That was followed by 2 weeks of house arrest. So not a huge sentence.
I feel like, that's the kind of sentence to scare someone out of doing that again. Because they're still young. Whatever.
At this point, Tyler got his phone taken away and had to communicate with all of his friends via Facebook. Around this time, he had a very odd conversation with his friend Isadora that went something like this. I will read for Tyler, and Nora, if you will be my guest, will you read for Isadora?
Yes.
Don't text me about drugs.
What happened?
My mom has it because I got arrested on Monday and she's flipping shit. I just got out today.
Oh, shit.
Effing shit sucked.
You bad, kid.
Just kidding. It's a pirate's life for me.
Laughing my ass off. WTF are you talking about?
I don't effing associate with non-pirates.
What?
Okay, I'm done with the nautical nonsense.
You're so silly. What are you doing?
Nothing, considering suicide.
Why?
Because I want to die, I guess. What other reasons are there?
Are you being serious?
Yes, I do want to die sometimes.
Don't die. I smoke a bowl whenever you're down.
I used to. Now I drink a lot when I'm depressed. It fills the emptiness inside me.
You're quite a character.
Yes, but all my smiles are fake. So that's a creepy conversation. That already goes to show kind of where his head's at and kind of who he portrays himself as.
Yeah. So, especially a teenager drinking a lot when they're depressed. Like, I feel like as a teenager, it's like a very, very social thing. It's not something you're like going home and having drinks like by yourself.
And the whole pirate thing was just odd.
Yeah.
So it's just a very odd conversation that I was like, I kind of feel like I have to include it just with like towards the end when he's like, my smiles are fake. This, I just felt it was very weird.
Yeah.
In June, he got drunk and ended up urinating on his friend Desiree Gerhard's bed. After all of this, his mother tried to get him into daily counseling sessions at New Horizons, a mental health and substance abuse center. He attended a few sessions, but overall they didn't work. This caused his mother to actually commit him to a mental health clinic. She was able to do this by invoking the Baker Act. So in Florida, this act allows parents to commit their children who are under the age of 18 to receive psychiatric treatment. This act can only be invoked if it is believed that the child will cause serious bodily harm to themselves or others.
Please tell me they got it.
Mary Jo said that she truly believed that Tyler may cause serious bodily harm to himself and only himself. Mm-hmm. Tyler had actually suffered from depression in the past, as well as an eating disorder and poor self-esteem. So they were able to get him treated for a little bit. Mm-hmm. So kind of a sad point from this, apparently Mary Jo used to inject Tyler with human growth hormone when he was younger.
What?
She thought it would boost his confidence because she didn't want him to be teased at school for being short and chubby. So, like, it's a nice thought behind it. I mean, regardless, just don't inject things into your child. But I guess it, like, was from a nice spot, but just not the right way to do any of that.
I feel like go to a doctor if that's an issue, like
something, or you have to figure your son's gonna grow. Like, he's a child.
I mean, everyone has an awkward phase.
Yeah, and he's not even his full height. Like, injecting him with something like that is not going to have good side effects down the road.
Yeah, and I mean, we weren't always as hot as we are now, and now look at us. You just have to let it happen.
We can just never let anyone see our childhood pictures.
I know.
God. So 2 weeks before the incident that we will be getting into, Mary Jo had been telling her friends that Tyler was, quote, over the hurdle, and she was so happy about the improvements that he had been making with his mental health. She felt like Tyler was truly back to being his old self. Just 3 days before the incident that occurred, the family had been on vacation in Georgia. It was a huge family gathering and a way for the whole family to be together as everyone lived in different states. Mike Hadley, Tyler's uncle, said that while on vacation, Tyler and his parents got into an argument about Tyler's drug use and alcohol use. Mike is quoted as saying, quote, that kid wanted his freedom and he wanted to party. His parents were in his way and he felt there was no way out. Tyler's grandpa, Maurice Hadley, had said that he hadn't seen any indications that Tyler and his parents were having any issues or problems between them, that it was just, typical arguments that families have. Mm-hmm. Well, on July 16th, 2011, Tyler did just what his uncle said he wanted to do. He threw a massive party. I have a funny party story. So you know Project X, that movie about a big party?
Yes.
I was at the movies watching Project X when a huge Project X type party was occurring right down the road.
No way.
I was so mad. We were like in the movie, our phones were like blowing up and we're like, oh, we'll just check this after the movie. This is a great movie. Mm-hmm. Afterwards, it was all these people being like, are you going to the party? I'm coming to the party. Are you guys going? And of course, when the movie ended, the party was over. Wow. We were like, no.
Oh my, it must have ended early. It probably got shut down.
It did. There were too many people there.
Oh my gosh.
So the week leading up to the party, Tyler had been telling his friends that he was planning this huge party, but none of his friends actually believed him. Tyler had very strict parents, and because of that, had never thrown a party before, so his friends for sure thought he was lying, and more likely that his parents just wouldn't allow it. He began spreading the word on Facebook, because he didn't have a phone, sometimes saying things that made others doubt he was being serious. His friends had asked about the party, and Tyler had said, quote, I'm working on it. Rightfully so, his friends assumed the party was off. Mm-hmm. Then, on July 16th at 11:25 a.m., Antonio Ramirez, a friend of Tyler's, messaged him on Facebook. Ramirez asked what Tyler was up to and if he had any plans that night. Tyler told Ramirez that he was trying to have a party at his place. Ramirez must have also known Tyler's parents and how strict they were that he asked Tyler if his parents were even home, which Tyler replied to saying, quote, nope, well, they're leaving soon. Shortly after the exchange between Ramirez and Tyler, Tyler posted a status on Facebook at 1:15 p.m. saying, party at my crib tonight, ... maybe. Again, none of his friends believed him, as he had never thrown one before, and he included maybe at the end.
Yeah, it's like he was just trying to get attention.
Yeah, but at 8:15 p.m., Tyler posted again saying, party at my house, HMU, which means hit me up, for all of those who aren't hip with the lingo.
Damn, girl. Her whole body shook when she said that.
Well, we're getting into that age where we're not hip with the lingo either.
I know, Mike. Oh my gosh, I see things online and I'm like, I'm so out of touch.
Nora, I have had to look up things online.
Same.
Like when people use like abbreviations and like things, I'm like, what does this mean?
I saw something recently online and it looked like, honestly, it looked like someone was throwing up gang signs.
Yeah.
But it was a Fortnite dance. I was like, how would I ever get that? Like, that's so weird.
We're out of it, Nora.
I know.
We're almost to our 30s.
I know.
So his friends were still questioning this. So his friend Ashley Hayes messaged him saying, whoa, what if your parents come home? To which Tyler said, they won't, trust me. By 11:30 p.m., the party was just getting started, and a fellow student of Tyler's named Mike Young arrived at the Hadley residence with about 10 of his friends. Mike was one of those popular kids. He was a junior and was into athletics. He didn't even know Tyler. He had seen him around school, but that was pretty much the peak of their interactions. The two were very different. Mike Young was popular, athletic, obviously had many friends as he arrived with 10 of his. Tyler Hadley was quite the opposite. He was tall, close to 6'1", and was skinny, only weighing 160 pounds at 6'1".
Wow. Stick.
Yeah. He and his friends were considered to be the potheads, juvenile delinquents, and pill poppers, so his crowd and Mike's crowd wouldn't have mixed. But Port St. Lucie was a small, boring town. There was really nowhere for teens to hang out and go, so when this big party was said to happen, it drew a lot of attention. Tyler opened the door for Mike that night wearing a long black t-shirt, black Dickies, which are jeans, and black Nike Air Force high tops. So I was at work when I was researching part of this, and I was like, black Dickies to make sure they were jeans. And I was like, wait, I think they're jeans, so I'm just going to add that at the end of this search.
Goodness, you stopped yourself.
I know, that would have been so bad. I would have had like security coming up to me being like, what are you doing? Or like our HR being like, can you stop?
I know. Oh my gosh.
So I typed in jeans after, so we were all good. So Mike later said that Tyler seemed very anxious when he opened the door. He was rubbing his hands together and his pupils were huge. It was clear to everyone around that Tyler was rolling. That means ecstasy, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I don't know drug terms. So as Mike walked in, Tyler said to him, quote, I don't want no one smoking inside. It's my parents' house, end quote. People slowly began to roll in, and pretty soon, Tyler's house had over 60 guests, some of whom didn't even know Tyler. All that was known was this dude named Tyler Hadley, who attended Port St. Lucie High, was throwing a huge party because his parents were out of town. That is about how much and how quickly word of this party had spread. The party was like any party in any movie. People were playing drinking games. That's where we would have been.
Yeah.
Going through the kitchen looking for food. Or there.
Yes.
Gathering both inside and outside, throwing empty bottles and cans in the front yard, smashing bottles and laughing. Cigarettes were being extinguished on all surfaces. Like, first of all, who do you think you are that it's okay to go into someone's house and just, like, put out your cigarettes anywhere?
Yeah.
Like,
what the heck?
I don't care how old you are. That's just rude.
That's so rude.
But Tyler didn't seem to care about any of the destruction. All he cared about was the noise level and not wanting the neighbors to call the cops. He soon started telling people that it was fine if they wanted to smoke inside. They could do whatever they wanted as long as they stayed inside. Mike had made himself comfortable on one of the couches talking to his friends when a skater dude, who looked like he could have been Tyler's friend, walked up to him. The kid said, quote, I smell dead people, then started laughing. Mike, confused, asked the dude what that was supposed to mean. Still laughing, the skater dude said, quote, oh, I don't know, people are smoking, that's all, end quote, then walked off. Another large group had gathered around the beer pong table at this point, which was in the kitchen, which is where the family computer was located. People were pulling up YouTube videos and singing and just queuing up different songs to play, but apparently no one noticed the dried brownish liquid that was all over the keyboard. Just around midnight, the party was in full swing. There were hundreds of people and 2 dogs. Someone brought their frickin' dog to this party.
Animal abuse.
Yes. There was a black lab named Sophie and an old blind and partially deaf beagle. Throughout the night, Sophie was nowhere to be found, but the poor old beagle was hiding in Tyler's brother's room. His brother Ryan was away at college in North Carolina at the time. The beagle was cowering under the bed. I just want to hurt anyone who scared these precious puppies.
Wait, so it wasn't the family dogs?
No!
Oh,
no!
Who would
2,
do that?
like, random people just brought their dogs to this party.
What the heck?
Like, I get involving your dog in your life, but, like, maybe not a party.
Not
like,
that kind of party.
So at about 12:30 a.m., so like an hour after people started to arrive, the party was running out of beer already. Tyler knew he had to get some more, so he asked his buddy Mark Andrews and his friend's girlfriend, Ashley Greshman, if they would drive him down the street to Sunoco. Since Mark was 21, Tyler gave him a huge wad of $20 bills and asked if Mark would go in and buy 4 cases of Busch Light.
Ugh.
At least it's not Natty Light.
I know.
Just kidding for anyone who likes the Natty Light. Tyler and Ashley waited in the car together as Mark went in to get the beer. This is when Tyler casually mentioned to Ashley that his father had died. Ashley didn't know Tyler very well and thought it was kind of weird that Tyler would tell her about his father's death that she assumed happened a while ago. So Tyler arrived back at the house with the beer to find that even more people had shown up. A text had apparently gone out saying that Tyler's party was the biggest thing ever. Tyler seemed calm and fine with how big the party was getting. That is until one dude ran into the house shirtless holding a mailbox over his head. Tyler yelled at the guy asking where he got the mailbox, to which the guy replied that he took it off of the neighbor's lawn. Well, this pissed Tyler off. He knew stealing a mailbox was a felony, and he was sure the police would be coming soon because of that. After his little explosion, though, someone took the mailbox and returned it, so crisis averted, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Snook was one of the people who got the text about this party being the biggest thing ever. He arrived just before the whole mailbox incident. Being a little pothead, Snook started walking around to find someone to smoke with. That's when he noticed the master bedroom's door was closed. Obviously, that meant that people were in there getting high. So he tried to walk in, but the door was locked. The hallway that the room was down was pretty dark, but Snook noticed a black smear that came from underneath the door that was about a foot long. He thought it looked like an oil-based paint that someone had tried to wipe up but had failed at doing.
There's a lot of brown and black smears around this house.
Ignoring it further, Snook continued on his search for the marijuana. Around 1:15 a.m., a guy who we will call Justin Wright showed up. Wright didn't want his real name used, so we'll use the one that he actually provided. Wright said that the first thing he noticed when he walked in was the smell. He said the whole house had a sweaty smell to it. And you know what that smell is, like from college times. He also noticed that the place was absolutely trashed. He found Tyler and asked if there were any house rules, which is really sweet.
Oh my gosh.
And Tyler told him to just do whatever he wanted.
Okay then.
Justin eventually ended up at the beer pong table. So they were playing the wasteful but correct way, where the cups are filled up with beer. If the ball goes in, you drink all the beer. So we play with water because it saves beer and it's not as nasty.
Yeah.
But they were playing with, like, the beer.
Oh, they're so young. They don't know.
I know. They don't realize how wasteful that is. So during the game, the ball had ended up rolling under the table, as it does. Justin crouched down to reach for the ball, which had landed in a sticky, thick brown substance. Being a little grossed out but not really caring, Justin picked up the ball, rinsed it off quickly in the sink, and continued to play the game. Meaning that if it went into a cup, someone drank that beer. So at some point in the night, Tyler's friend Mark, the one who was 21 and bought the beers, was heading out, but Tyler grabbed him right before he could leave, asking if he could tell him something. This is when he starts to unravel. Tyler said to Mark, quote, "Dude, I did some things. I might go to prison. I might go away for life. I don't know, dude. I'm freaking out right now." Mark obviously responded by asking Tyler what he was talking about. Tyler then said, quote, "Dude, I know you're not going to believe me. No one will believe me. I freaking killed somebody," end quote. And Mark has such an interesting response. He said, quote, "Dude, you killing somebody is your own business. Don't be telling me that sort of thing. I don't need to know." With that...
Who would have that reaction?
So with that, Mark left. And Tyler headed back inside where he ran into Ricardo Acevedo. The two had just met that night. Ricardo thanked Tyler for the beer and for having them over, which is really sweet too.
Yeah.
To which Tyler said, "I just wanted to do something fun before I left." Ricardo asked where Tyler was going, and Tyler straight up said, "I'm going to kill myself." Obviously confused, Ricardo said, "Why would you do that?" To which Tyler explained that he had done something really bad and that if he gets caught, he will be going to jail for a long time. Tyler then walked into his bedroom to find his friend, K Nasty, whose real name was Kimberly Theben, sitting on his bed. The two were close friends and only lived a couple houses down from each other. He told Kimberly, "I'm going away for 60 years. When she asked why, he told her that she would find out tomorrow. Clearly, whatever he had done was starting to get to him. Tyler then found his best friend, Michael Mendel, and asked if he could talk to him privately. They walked outside, and Tyler straight up told him, quote, "I killed my parents." Mike obviously didn't believe Tyler. Tyler told him that he wasn't lying, he was being real, and that if Michael looked around, he would start to see the signs. So that's what Michael did. He looked around and noticed that Tyler's dad's black Toyota Tacoma and Tyler's mother's red Ford Expedition were parked in the driveway.
No one noticed. I guess they didn't know it was their
Whose car was which. So why would his parents' cars be there if they were supposedly out of town? Michael still didn't want to believe him, so Tyler led him into the garage. After flipping on the garage light, Michael noticed a bloody shoe print. Tyler then led Michael over to the master bedroom. Remember, someone already came to this door earlier in the night and saw what he thought was paint? Mm-hmm. Well, Michael approached the door and noticed blood. Tyler unlocked and opened the door for Michael. When Michael stepped in the room, he saw a mess. He saw dining room chairs and blood-soaked towels piled up in the middle of the room. At the bottom of this pile of debris, Michael saw a white leg. That's when Tyler came clean and told Michael everything. This is what happened. These are their stories. Dun dun. He knew he was going to kill his parents, and he knew he was going to do it that day. So around 5 p.m., he took his parents' cell phones from them and hid them, so that there would be no way they would be able to call for help. Diabolical, so horrible. He then listened to a hype-up song called Feel Lucky by a rapper named Lil Boozy. I don't know who that is at all. Tyler then took 3 pills of ecstasy. He said that he worried he wouldn't be able to kill his parents if he were sober. So maybe stay sober?
Yeah.
I don't know. Heck? Maybe don't kill your parents?
Yeah.
He went into the garage where he found a claw hammer and returned to the house. His mother was working on the family computer in the kitchen, the one that was near the pong table, the one that had that weird sticky brown liquid on it. Tyler came up behind his mom and stood there for 5 minutes just watching her, thinking about what he was going to do. Then he raised the claw end of the hammer above his head and brought it straight down onto Mary Jo's head.
Oh my gosh.
She was screaming out, why, which prompted her husband to come running down the stairs to see why his wife was screaming. Now, Tyler's dad is a big dude. He's 6'1", the same height as Tyler, but weighs 300 pounds. So significantly bigger than Tyler's 160.
Yeah.
After seeing his wife bleeding on the floor, all Blake was able to say was why. To which Tyler replied, and I quote, "Why the fuck not?" He lunged at his father and somehow overpowered him. He continued screaming the same phrase as he beat his father to death with the claw end of the hammer.
Oh my gosh.
Mary Jo was only 47 and Blake was only 54. Once his parents were dead, Tyler wrapped their heads with towels, and I think he did this because sometimes when killers cover their victims' faces, it's because they're ashamed, and they don't want their victim looking at them, and they don't want to see it. Mm-hmm. And then he dragged them into the master bedroom. He laid them side by side, face down, and put the hammer he used in between them. He said it took him 3 hours to clean up the mess, which he obviously didn't get everything. He didn't get so many things. Mm-hmm. He then took absolutely every single piece of evidence he could think of and threw it into the room as well, further burying his parents under broken dishes and glass, bloody towels and pillowcases, a sponge mop, a coffee table, Clorox wipes, and a canister of ground coffee. I think the coffee was maybe for the smell. Mm-hmm. Tyler said he then took a shower, and after he got out, he stared at himself in the mirror. Then he laughed, and the night continued on.
Oh my gosh, and his brother is away at school and literally lost his whole family.
Mm-hmm. So after hearing this whole story, Michael didn't leave right away. He ended up staying for an additional 45 minutes. He even posed for pictures with Tyler and took a few selfies with him. I remember hearing somewhere, maybe from Morbid, maybe from some other podcast, I can't remember where, that Michael took these pictures because he knew they would be the last he would ever get with Tyler, his best friend since the age of 8.
Wow.
Around 2 p.m., someone at the party announced that there was another party happening down the road.
2 a.m.?
2 a.m.! These kids really freaking partied.
Oh my gosh.
So pretty much all of the kids at the party ran out of the house, throwing their drinks on the lawn outside and leaving. The whole caravan of like 15 cars all left Tyler's house and raced off to the location of the new party, which was occurring in the nearby town of Bayshore. But the whole group pulled up to a huge house with all the lights off. A girl came out in her PJs. It was obvious that this new party was just a rumor. As the caravan tore out of Tyler's neighborhood, though, his neighbor Rhianne Wallace had had enough. She had no idea why Tyler was throwing such a party. She knew him as being a quiet kid who pretty much kept to himself. She also had no idea how or why his parents would allow him to have such a party. She was fed up and called the police. 2 officers from the Port St. Lucie Police Department showed up and were in front of the Hadley residence within minutes. There were only about 20 people still at the party at this point. The cops walked up to Tyler's house and rang the doorbell. Tyler told the remaining guests to hide in his room and be quiet, then he went and answered the door. The cops told Tyler that there had been a noise complaint. They talked for a little and eventually left, and the party started again.
What? They didn't ask to see talk to his parents or anything? Wow.
I guess not. We were hanging out with some friends once, and we got a noise complaint from one of my friends, like rude neighbors. And so the cop comes up, she's like, can I talk to your parents about the noise complaint? And Mackenzie was like, yeah, of course. And she called her mom down. Her mom was like, how can I help you? And the officer was like, do you know your kids are hanging out with people this late at night? And her mom was like, yes, I do. Or is this why you're waking me up at 2 a.m? And the officer was so embarrassed and left. It was amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Her mom got a little mad at us afterwards, but she totally had our back.
That's good. She stood up for you guys.
Oh,
that
yeah, she's awesome. Bad. She's awesome. And I mean, she knew we were having people over. She just didn't want us to be loud.
Yeah.
But you know, when you're young, you're like having friends over and you're just laughing and you're just being obnoxious.
Yeah.
So the party was, and that's what makes me wonder about this party. There's so many kids. How close are their houses that they're not getting, like, if I were to have a party with 60 people, both inside and outside with music and everything, like, my neighbors would see it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how.
Even in your parents' house. Like,
yeah. So I have no idea what kind of neighborhood they live in where they can do this.
Yeah.
So the party was still going on by 2:30 a.m. And at this point, people were starting to return. Like, first off, where are these other kids' parents? Like,
I know.
You're still out partying at 2:30?
I know.
Michael said at this point that it was very clear Tyler wasn't in a good place. Michael had taken Tyler's 10 Percocet pills and hid them in a closet. He had a feeling Tyler would have used these to complete suicide because he was saying he wanted to die and stuff. Tyler was acting pretty weird as the party continued on, pacing, checking out the front windows, turning the lights off. At one point, one partygoer saw Tyler making himself a sandwich at 3 a.m. in the kitchen in the dark.
Oh my gosh.
So the party starts to dwindle down, and I guess around like 4 o'clock, everyone was gone. So then at 4:40 a.m., Tyler made a post on Facebook saying, quote, party at my house again, hit me up, meaning that he wanted to have another party that next night as well. Right around the time Tyler made this post, he had no idea that there were 2 officers making their way to his place. Officers Adrian Zamoyski and Charles Green were dispatched to 371 Northeast Grandeur Avenue at 4:32 a.m. after Tyler's friend Michael Mendel had called the Crime Stoppers hotline. The officers parked across the street and made their way up the driveway, at which point they ran the license plates of the 3 cars parked in front of the house: Tyler's mom's car, his dad's car, and his car. As the officers approached the house, they heard someone inside talking. Officer Green knelt down and peered through the bay window at the front of the house. He noticed someone, who ended up being Tyler, obviously, pacing back and forth across the living room. He was talking to himself, and as
That's so creepy.
And as Officer Green described, had a very disturbed look on his face, that his eyes were very wide and he was not blinking. Green observed Tyler walk to a nearby bookshelf, grab a stack of books, walk to the back bedroom, which we now know is the master bedroom, and dump the books on the floor, only to return back to the bookshelf 2 more times and do the same thing.
So he was trying to cover them?
Further burying his parents.
Wow.
At this point, the officers finally knocked on the front door. Tyler answered but had one hand behind his back. The officers demanded that he show both of his hands, which he did. It is reported that they had him lay on the ground and handcuff him. I'm not sure if they're, like, allowed to do this, or maybe there's probable cause or something.
I think they can detain you if you're being investigated.
Okay. They then asked Tyler if his parents were home, to which he replied no. Again, the officers described seeing him as being frantic, incoherent, annoyed, and having very large pupils. Tyler then said, quote, I know I'm going to Rock Road, so just take me, end quote. Rock Road was referring to the St. Lucie County Jail. Tyler was left in the driveway as the officers entered the house. At this point, Tyler yelled, you can't go in there, don't go in there. So at some point, the cops had gotten a search warrant, which is why they were able to enter and search his house. As the cops were searching the house and seeing the absolute mess that was made, they opened a closet door. Inside was a scared black lab.
Someone left the dog?
Yes. Yes.
What the heck?
But I'm glad they found it. I don't know what happened to the black lab, but I hope it went to, like, a family that actually cared about it.
I hope that kid got in a lot of trouble.
Oh, God. So the cops continued their search and eventually made their way to the master bedroom, where they noticed streaks of dried blood around the door, on the frames, and on the baseboards. They then opened the door and made the grisly discovery of Mary Jo and Blake's bodies. Obviously, Tyler was arrested and taken into custody. The funeral service for Mary Jo and Blake was attended by over 1,000 people. The 2 coffins were laid side by side. What's also sad is that Mary Jo was a committed Catholic, and that on Sunday, the day her body was found, she was actually supposed to read a passage at Mass that morning. The passage she planned to read that morning came from 1 Corinthians. The passage was about the power of love. The one that says, love is patient, love is kind, it always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. So it's like really sad that was the one she was going to read.
Yeah.
So after the funeral service, Ryan, the older brother, made the trip up to St. Lucie County Prison in Fort Pierce to see his brother. He was quoted saying, Quote, "It's what my parents would want me to do. They wouldn't want me to abandon him. I don't know what I'm going to say. I'll probably just sit there and cry." The responses from some other people after the murders were horrible. So one girl said, though she didn't really know Tyler, she blamed the parents for what had happened to them. She pretty much said that Tyler was under a lot of pressure and, like, his parents would never let him be himself, and they're the reason for everything that happened. She said he got crazy because of all they expected from him. After that, with enough hate towards someone, something like this would actually happen. And she said she didn't even know him that well, so it's very weird that she would put these...
It sounds like she would say that. Trying to get attention or, like, have her moment, which is sick.
And during her quote, she did say like a lot, which I thought was really kind of funny. As the investigation went on, it started to become apparent that Tyler was a chronic liar. He had told friends, including his best friend Michael, that his father once punched him in the face. He also told his friend Marky that his father Blake wasn't actually his real dad. But during investigations, Marky found out that Tyler was, of course, lying about that, making his other claims seem questionable. Like, it was his actual dad.
Yeah.
His brother even said that his parents were awesome and that his brother was a pathological liar.
Sounds like it.
Uh-huh. Others claim that it was probably due to Tyler's drug use, that he used all types of drugs and was usually always on something. But that doesn't make you just murder your parents.
Yeah.
Tyler tried to tell people that it had been the drugs that made him commit the murders, that he wished he had never started taking that one prescription, though he never actually said which prescription that would have been. But the others came forward after this. Tyler had told Michael that he had purposely waited until his brother moved out and went to college before he killed his parents. A fellow inmate at the same jail, Justin Toney, later testified and said that Tyler had told him that he had been planning the murder for 3 weeks before it actually happened. He had told the inmate, "You should have come to the party. It was awesome."
It's so, oh my gosh, so premeditated.
Oh, yeah. He also told Toney, "You really want to know what it was? I don't think it was the medication. It was the devil, because the devil is drugs and money. The devil is drugs and money." Tyler was seen as a sort of celebrity at the prison because of how global and well-known his story had become. He even started to receive fan mail while in prison. Wow. He would sign the letters as Hambo. I think this was part off of a nickname he received while in prison, the nickname of Ham. Mm-hmm. But I also read somewhere that it was short for Hammer Boy because he used a hammer. He would also sign autographs for other inmates and put...
Oh my gosh.
At the end of, like, his signature, he would put Hammer Time.
What?
Ugh.
That's not drugs. That's your freaking psycho.
So, but he wasn't loved by all prisoners, thankfully.
Good.
He had been beaten up and jumped while detained.
I don't feel too bad.
No, I really don't either. While in prison, Tyler continued his education. He passed his GEDs and even scored a 2100 on his SAT, which is, like, actually really good. He likes Harry Potter. Who doesn't? And James Patterson. He meets regularly with a priest and even said that he wanted to be ordained when he got out of jail, which won't end up happening because he committed the murders at the age of 17, so he wasn't able to receive the death penalty and instead received 2 life sentences. Okay. Tom Beckadale, the chief assistant state attorney, said about his judicial philosophy that their focus was on punishment, not rehabilitation.
Good.
He also wrote letters to his family, mainly his grandparents and some friends. In a letter he wrote to his grandfather, he stated that he was overcome with guilt and grief and that he feels horrible for what he's done. He is terrified of going to hell but has been repenting with Father Michael. He says he feels scared and so alone.
So you're scared because you don't want to go to hell and because you don't want to be in prison, not because of what you did. He also had some words to say to his best friend Michael. He is thankful that Michael prevented him from committing suicide by hiding those pills, but he blamed Michael and said it is his fault that he's in jail. But he has forgiven him because Michael called Crime Stoppers, which is actually, like, such a good thing that he did. Yeah.
At one point in his letter to Michael, he said, quote, "I swear to you, Michael, the devil had a hold of me. I talked to him and he talked to me. That's why I seemed so crazy toward the end." So I need to tell you some of the quotes that people who attended the party said after the news broke and they found out what happened. So Mike Young, he just has, like, a lot of friends named Mike.
Yeah.
Like the pastor, 2 friends, just a lot of Mike people in his life. So Mike Young, the athlete dude, had said, quote, "I was like, damn, brother, that's creepy as hell. I can't believe we partied last night where there was dead people." After he did the interview on the news, he received like 30 new Facebook friend requests. Later, when he was asked about that, he said, quote, "They were like, I seen you on the news, bro." I was like, "Yeah, it was awesome." That's gross.
That's so gross.
That's horrible. Then a cheerleader from the high school who was 16 said that she wasn't scared or disgusted because she didn't know him personally. She was just in awe.
Oh, then you have no connection to it. Why care?
Yeah. And then remember Anthony Snook? He was the one who found the dried blood that he thought was paint.
Yeah.
Well, he said, quote, "Wow, I just went to the party of a lifetime. It's messed up what he did, but 20 years from now, I'll be able to say I was there. I hate Port St. Lucie, but that's kind of cool."
What?
Right? Like,
these kids are sick.
And
they're
this
all
is why
doomed.
high school kids' brains aren't fully developed. So 2 weeks before the infamous party, Tyler had been hanging out with his friend Marky Phillips. Suddenly, Tyler blurted out that he wanted to kill his parents and have a big party after because no one had ever done that before. But Phillips didn't take Tyler seriously. This was 2 weeks before the party.
So I wonder if Phillips was sweating when Tyler was like, "I'm having a party."
Oh, I don't know. Gross. During the same time before the party, Tyler was talking to a friend named Mercedes Marco. He was complaining to her over Facebook because his mom had taken his phone away. He called his mom a nasty name and said, "Faux show, I might kill her." So I had to include that because after it, Mercedes has the comment, "Oh my God, no jail, or I mean prison, LOL." To which Tyler replied, "Oh well," then did a little heart.
What?
So then to the day of the party, Tyler had a conversation again on Facebook with his friend Matt Noble. Side note, like I said, Tyler seems to have so many friends named Matt. So their conversation went like this. Nora, if you would pull it up, please.
Yes.
I'll, again, do Tyler, and you can do Matt Noble.
Okay. Did you do it?
No, but I'm gonna.
Bet? You really should now. Do it.
Don't worry, I am. Then I'm having a party.
Yeah, party time, N-word.
So I don't want to blame anyone, but I feel like at some point, maybe some people should have mentioned this to their parents.
Yeah.
Like about how weird their friend Tyler had been acting. But at the same time, kids don't always tell their parents things because they're scared their parents are going to lecture them. And, you know.
Yeah, but if someone is telling me that they're going to kill their parents, even like in my teenage years, like how can you just let that slide?
Right. I feel like I'd be like, "Okay, Mom, don't get mad at me. I don't need a lecture.
Yeah.
I need to tell you something."
It's like, I'm not involved, but this is what happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just scary how many red flags there were before the party that just people didn't really do anything about. So on February 19th, 2014, Tyler pleaded no contest to the 2 counts of first-degree murder. No contest means that the person accepts the conviction without actually pleading or admitting any guilt. Judge Robert M. Makinson, who presided over the case, called the crimes brutal, heinous, and premeditated. He also accused Hadley of manipulating experts and that he was lying when he claimed to be hearing voices. Mackinson is the one who ultimately sentenced Tyler Hadley to 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole on March 20th, 2014. I just think it's crazy, too. He committed these crimes in 2011 and wasn't sentenced until 2014.
I know, and they had overwhelming evidence.
Yes, exactly. They had everything they needed.
Yeah.
So some newer sentencing updates about this case, as in like 2018, but still. There was a lot that went on after his initial sentencing of 2 life sentences. His defense tried to get him to only have to serve 40 years, but after another trial, his 2 life sentences were maintained. His sentence does include an automatic review after 25 years, though. What? So 25 years after the crime was committed, he will get a review.
He has no business.
So that review will be in 2036.
No.
Yeah. So only in like 15 years from now.
Oh my God.
At that review, the judge will determine if the life sentence is still appropriate based on Hadley's behavior and conduct in prison, or if this sentence should be reduced. I don't think it should be reduced. And I don't think that however you behave in prison should be any indication of who you are, because prison is a very controlled place. Like, of course, if there's a structure and a system, you're going to behave.
Yeah. There's no point of him getting out anyways, because everyone will hate him. He won't be able to get a job.
And his family keeps saying, like, we don't want to relive this again.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to come to his review, but they're going to have to because they're the family. So that is our crazy case of Tyler Hadley.
Wow.
So I hope I did it justice.
That is so sad.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And wild.
When I started, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this case. And I got like a couple notes in and I was like, no, there's too much. I can't do this. And then I just sat down and I had like 5 pages and I was like, okay, I just have to keep going with this. So.
Wow. That's nuts.
So Nora, what do you have for Florida?
So starting off, I'm going to give you a little background and some statistics on what I think is one of Florida's most fascinating citizens.
Okay.
The alligators. There are about 1 million alligators in Florida.
Oh my, what?
I know. And if you think about it, like, they're not just in Florida. They're in Georgia, South Carolina. They go as far north as North Carolina.
I hate that.
That's right below us.
I hate that.
Yeah. And then I also went on one of those alligator safaris in the Florida Everglades when I was like 12, and they take you on those big boats.
How fun was that?
It was so much fun. It's like a really loud engine, but you get to see the alligators up close.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But other than actually going out and like seeking to see alligators, like in a controlled environment like that, it's not common to get like up close and personal with them.
Good.
Yeah. In fact, the chances of being attacked by an alligator in Florida is 1 in 3.2 million.
Oh, wow.
So small.
Oh, I have a creepy story about Florida.
Oh, gosh.
And alligators. My cousins live there, and they used to wakeboard on, like, lakes and ponds and stuff, wherever has, like, waves to wakeboard.
Yeah.
And they would have to check the water for, like, alligators and crocodiles before they would go into the water.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a way I want to live.
Yeah, and, like, there's a ton of just channels and areas where they hang out. There's it's a lot.
Yeah, when I think channels, I do think alligators.
Yeah. Between 1948 and 2016, there have been 401 alligator attacks in Florida, and 23 of those attacks were fatal. The deadliest time in that period was 2001 to 2006, with 3 people dying each year from being attacked.
Oh my gosh.
So, let's talk about some of those attacks.
Yes, let's.
So, in November of 2007, a 36-year-old theft suspect named Justo Padron was burglarizing a vehicle in the Miccosukee Tribe Indian Reservation in Florida. Police arrived and Justo fled into an alligator-infested lake nearby. The lake had signs warning people, "Danger, live alligators." Well, Justo was trying to hide from police, so he chose to ignore that very important sign, and he turned up dead the next day with gator teeth marks on his upper torso.
Oh, no.
The Miami-Dade Medical Examiner's Office confirmed Justo died of an alligator attack.
God, that would be such a horrible way to go.
Yeah, it really would.
Ugh.
His death had been classified as an accident. One of Justo's accomplices, who has not been identified, surrendered and was arrested. According to authorities, the 2 men were not members of the tribe, because this happened on, like, the tribal land in Florida.
They were just there?
Well, it sounds like they took a trip down to this Indian reservation from Miami-Dade to steal from people and just be thugs.
Oh.
So that didn't age well for them.
Oh, God.
A little more on Justo. He had been wanted by authorities since September of that year for violating his probation after pleading guilty in June to cocaine possession. Also, he had been arrested more than a dozen times since 1989 on various charges, including burglary, robbery, assault, and drug possession, and was released from prison in 2002 after a 6-year sentence for burglary.
You would think they learned.
I know. That backfired.
Oh my gosh.
And then there was an eerily similar story that took place 8 years later on November 13th, 2015 in Brevard County, Florida. Mm-hmm. Investigators say that 22-year-old Matthew Riggins had told his girlfriend he would be in Barefoot Bay, which is in southern Brevard County, to commit burglaries with another suspect. Deputies responded to calls in Barefoot Bay, and the calls were stating that there were 2 men dressed in black walking behind houses in the area. Officers found the 2 men, but they quickly ran away from the officers. Police searching the area reported hearing yelling in the distance, but could not determine the source because it was nighttime.
Oh, no.
10 days later, Riggins' body was found in the lake. Sheriff's dive team members encountered an 11-foot alligator behaving aggressively while recovering the body. According to one source, when the body was found, it had injuries that were consistent with an alligator attack.
11 feet is huge. Oh my God.
The police euthanized the gator. When they opened it up, when they opened it up, there were some remains inside that were consistent with injuries found on the body.
Oh my God, gross.
I know. Riggins died from drowning, and bites were discovered along his legs and body that led to investigators to determine he had been dragged underwater by the alligator. So crazy. It's suspected that Riggins and his accomplice had been responsible for a ton of other robberies in the area around that time period because a lot of the houses sat empty since people hadn't started coming back to their homes in Florida yet for the winter because like they would travel during the summer because it's so hot there.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's telling you that you're not supposed to burglarize people in Florida.
Well, and they put themselves in a position where they're just desperate to hide, so they're not thinking about what they're doing.
You would think if you lived in Florida enough, that would be like your top concern.
I
like,
know.
Is there an alligator near me?
Seriously. Then in 2015, Rachel Lilienthal, age 37 of Orlando, Florida, was swimming in shoulder-deep water in Wekiva River when suddenly something clamped down on her arm. She didn't connect the dots at first until she used her free arm to feel whatever it was, and that's when she realized it was an alligator.
How terrifying.
So scary. Right when she realized her right arm was in a gator's mouth, she said a quick prayer.
Oh.
Then it rolled her around and she could feel her arm break. At that point, she realized she wouldn't be able to escape and needed to call for help. Girl, the second an alligator is 20 feet from me and I'm swimming, I'm calling for help.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, I just couldn't.
It just rolled me.
Yeah.
Now I should call
I'm like about to die. I'll call for help now.
Oh my God.
Luckily for Rachel, there was a couple nearby in a canoe who heard her calls for help. Krista Carlson and boyfriend Casey Spencer came to Rachel's rescue and beat the gator with their paddle, which scared it off.
Oh, good.
Spencer later remembered, quote, I kept trying to go at it when it was on her abdomen, and she tried to grab onto the kayak with her right arm, but there was no arm there. It got completely ripped off, end quote.
Oh. Whoa.
Yeah. Rachel calls the rescuers her heroes, crediting them with saving her life.
Aw.
I know. She says, quote, I am so eternally grateful for both Kristen and Casey. They were so great. They didn't consider their own safety. They saw someone in need and they rushed to assist, end quote. This story's ending, Rachel later said, could have been much, much worse.
Yeah.
And she did lose her right arm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But I mean, better than losing your life. So.
Exactly. And that was one story where I was like, okay, yeah, it's very unlucky that she got attacked, but she is so lucky someone was there
and
she lived through it.
So her prayer was answered.
Yeah, exactly. Jeez. Okay, so this next story is crazy.
Okay.
In 1985, Paul Mirabito, aged 27, went fishing in the Wellington, Florida area with his friend Kenneth Wells and 3 of Paul and Kenneth's children. Paul and Kenneth were drinking pretty heavily, and they had at least 5 beers each. Paul started playing this game where he would jump into the water and pretend to drown. He did this throughout the day as the group visited different canals in the area. At the final canal the group planned to visit that day, Paul saw an alligator, so he jumped into the water and began punching it with his hands.
Why?
I don't know. I think he was just drunk and like messing around. But are you crazy? I know. One of the children saw him go underwater, but he didn't come back up. Paul's disappearance was not reported until 12 hours later.
Why?
Because at first his friend Kenneth and the kids believed that he was still playing that game where he was pretending to drown.
I can see that, but like for 12 hours.
I know, that's a long time.
That's
it's like
really
after 20 minutes, it's like, okay, we're calling 911.
Yeah.
2 days later, a body was found floating in the canal and it was determined to be Paul's. The body was found by workers at a pump station. Paul's neck was gashed and he had puncture wounds on his arms, which appeared to be from an alligator bite. The medical examiner concluded that the cause of death was drowning, but noted evidence of bleeding around the wounds, indicating the bites occurred prior to drowning.
Oh.
Isn't that wild?
Oh my God.
But again, like, you're putting yourself in a crazy situation, and that's why you got attacked.
Why would your first thought, seeing an alligator, be like, let me go punch her?
I know.
Florida's crazy, man.
Crazy. And then in 2017, 77-year-old Tony Arts had just made one of the best shots of his long golfing career. His ball coming to rest a few feet from the hole.
Congrats, man.
I know. Tony got out of his golf cart, grabbed his putter, and walked past a water hazard toward the green. Then he heard a splash. He assumed someone in the group behind him hit without waiting for him to get out of the way. Then he saw the alligator. He said, quote, he was coming right at me, just boom, end quote. The gator grabbed Tony's right foot and began pulling him into the water. He dug his left foot into the mug, a futile attempt to slow the gator down. He clubbed the gator in the head with his putter, but that was no use.
Oh.
The gator relented only after Tony began bashing its eye. Tony later said, funny, I felt no pain, end quote.
Oh my gosh.
I think his adrenaline was just so high. And
or shock.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Do gators run fast? Like, are they
They're
fast?
Oh. Yeah.
I read somewhere you're supposed to run in zigzags because they can't.
Yeah, exactly. And their eyes are like very sensitive.
Good to know.
And Tony suffered only minor injuries to his foot.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
Good thing he had that putter.
I know. Now I'm going to talk about if you're one in the millions of people who do get attacked by an alligator, what you should do if you do.
Oh, good.
Okay, so alligators.
All right, listen up, people.
Alligators, and you know, crocodiles are very similar. So if you're in Australia and you're attacked by a crocodile, I'm sure you could use these too.
All right, just everyone use this.
So alligators are attracted by motion. Under normal circumstances, they will not attack you unless you do something to attract their attention or encroach their territory, which was the 3 examples I gave of people dying. Yeah. That's exactly what happened.
Exactly.
So this means do not feed them. You might think they're hungry being in the wild, but they do just fine on their own and do not need your help to survive.
Yep. They live for like hundreds of years, don't they?
Yes. They live to be very old, and they can get quite big, but they have survived. I mean, think about it. Alligators have been around for so long, like dating back to like
older than dinosaurs, or aren't they dinosaurs or something?
They're from that period.
Yeah.
So they know how to survive.
Yeah, they're fine. Exactly. They don't need your help.
Ron McGill, wildlife expert and communications director at Zoo Miami, said on Good Morning America, quote, "It's rare that an alligator will come out of the water and go after a human being," end quote.
Well, he did it at the golf course.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I know. That was a bad one, but thank goodness he had a
God, that's so scary.
Let's say you're taking a walk and an alligator slithers up onto the bank, locking its cold, reptilian eyes on you. What should you do?
Stand still. Run away.
Run away.
Climb a tree. I don't know.
Use those feet and hightail it out of there. Gators will attack to defend themselves or their territory. Unless you've really angered it, the alligator shouldn't chase you.
Okay. I don't know if I'm one of those people who would like look at it and be frozen in fear, or like look at it and run. I've never been in this situation, knock on wood, and I don't ever want to find myself in a situation where I answer this question.
If for some reason you can't turn away, like in the golfer's case, you have to fight. If a gator gets you in its clutches or snatches you underwater, don't play dead. Fight back and fight back hard. If it takes you into a death roll, which happened to the girl who lost her arm, try to roll with it to avoid losing the arm or leg it has hold of. So she didn't. She fought back and lost her arm. Step 3, if fighting isn't working, you need to gouge its eyes. An alligator's eyes are its most sensitive spots, so poking it in the eyes could make the gator open its jaw and release you.
Oh.
So that is my story about alligators in Florida.
And Nora, why did you choose alligators? What was your reasoning you gave me?
Did I give you a reason?
Yeah, you were like, I want to find something that's really specific to Florida. Alligators.
Yes, I did. Yeah. I just think alligators are really fascinating. Like, since we live in a place where there are no alligators in the wild, I forget that they're like so close.
Yeah.
And they can be found. Like, I remember one summer I went to the New Orleans area to like volunteer. Some of the groups had to go out into the swampy area and collect, I forget what they had to do. I think they were like collecting trash. And there were alligators in the water. Like, it's in all of the southern states pretty much. So it's just crazy that that's like a thing. Like, that's not a thing that we have to worry about here.
Yeah. When Joe and I go to New Orleans, we want to do a bayou tour. And it's going to be during the winter. Oh no, I'm peeling. It's going to be during the winter. But they were like, oh yeah, you probably won't see any alligators. Joe's like, that's fine. I don't want to see them. I don't want to deal with them. Because when we were going to go like more in the summertime, you could kayak through the bayous. And I was like, absolutely not.
Heck no.
No. So we're going to be on like a big boat and safe.
That's a lot better because it's very high up and there's like people trained there.
Yes, so exactly.
And you can hightail it out of there if you come across a crazy one.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, this is a fun episode. I was kind of nervous to do Florida because I was like, there are so many things. Like,
so many.
Florida man. And just every story you read, I'm sorry, Florida, but every story you read, it's like, this happened in Florida. This crazy tale in Florida.
Yeah. Do you know what I heard? And I don't know if this is true, but I heard that like Florida has the most relaxed laws on what can be published in the media. So
I believe it.
Florida's argument, like their argument over there is that because of that, more stories come out where they're hidden better. They're able to be hidden better in other states.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's true or it's just a cover up.
I mean, if it is true, then it does make sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my gosh.
Because there are some interesting stories coming out of Florida.
Oh, yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. We hope you liked this episode because this is actually really fun.
Yeah, I love this one.
Send us emails to ascarystatepodcast@gmail.com.
Follow us on Instagram at ascarystatepodcast. And also, did you say Facebook yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. Yeah, check us out on Facebook. Give us a like. And we will also post updates on Facebook too.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. So make sure to stay scary.
Stay safe.
Hey, everyone. Have you ever
watch, promote, and track your podcast. Buzzsprout has made our experience with podcasting both fun and stress-free by listing our show on all major podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, just to name a few.
You'll get a great-looking podcast website, audio players that you can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how and where people are listening, tools to promote your episodes, and much more.
Following the link in the show notes lets Buzzsprout know we sent you, gets you a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan, and helps support our show.
Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout.
And remember to stay scary.
Stay safe.